Sounded like some people.
I can hear you. I can hear you now, Joe. I'm just going
Okay.
to I'm going to mute my microphone. Maybe start one more time. And audience, let us know if you can hear us.
Okay, great. If I was speaking and you didn't hear what I was saying, I was actually just saying I was starting this session, the 2:45 session, but waiting for a moment for other attendees to arrive. We're almost about 2 minutes in, so I think I will go ahead. So I have the privilege of introducing today's speaker for this session, which is titled Managing a Remote Workforce. But one of the side privileges here of announcing this next speaker was the association gave me the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Joe DeLuca from CSC Global, and I work for eRecording Solutions, part of this company. And a number of you I've spoken to on the phone, or you've seen emails from me in the past, or we've talked to on the phone, but never had the chance to meet live. Was hoping that this would be the year to do that, and for obvious reasons, it is not. But I'm happy to be able to do this. So just real quick on CSC, we're based out of Wilmington, Delaware. Our company is over 100 years old, established back in 1899. But in 1999, so 100 years after that, we developed and launched the e-recording of land records program, and that happened down this way in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So working with one county to connect banks with the county to be able to electronically record land records. And since that time, it's grown quite a bit. We work with almost 2,000 jurisdictions in 48 states. Legislation was passed last year or the year before to make e-recording permissible in the state of Rhode Island. So we did launch it last year. We activated 12 jurisdictions who were off to a great start, but of course we were slowed down with COVID. It didn't slow us down. Almost everybody in the world wants to e-record now. Certainly submitters need to find a new way to get documents to counties and cities, and counties and cities want to be able to have that option as well. So if I can help you in any way, please contact me. We do have a booth here, but you could also just reach me by phone or email. So that's enough about me and CSC. I want to talk to you about your speaker, and it's an honor for me to be able to introduce her to you. Her name is Karyn Rhodes, and she is the Vice President and Director of Complete HR Solutions. And Karyn brings many years of senior level experience in human resources, best practices to Complete Payroll Solutions, where she serves as Vice President, Director of Complete HR Solutions. She is a national and regional speaker and contributor to business magazines on HR-related topics. She has appeared on several TV and radio shows in the Northeast. She specializes in all areas of human resources, including strategic planning, employee and labor relations, recruiting, compliance, training and development, compensation and benefits, policies and procedures, organizational development, executive coaching, workforce planning, and affirmative action plans. Karyn has worked as an instructor for Bryant University and Cape Cod Community College. She currently serves on the board of directors for the Women's Development Center and has served on the board of directors for RISHRM and NEBA. She holds a BS in Business Administration from Northeastern University and advanced certification in Human Resource Management from Bryant University, and is a certified HRCI Senior Professional in Human Resources and SHRM Senior Certified Professional. She knows a lot, and she's going to share that information with you, and I am excited to turn you over to Karyn, and here she is.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Joe. I appreciate it. So while Joe's just getting the PowerPoint up on the screen for you all, I'm excited to be here with you today and talk about managing remote workers. Obviously, last March came as a shock to all of us, not being prepared to necessarily work remotely. How do we do that effectively? It was a scramble. Most people did not have the equipment they needed, were not prepared to have people working remotely, and so on. So it was a quick scramble for everyone, for sure. So Joe, if you just go down to the left here from the beginning on the PowerPoint, very left side, there you go. So as Joe was mentioning, so Complete HR Solutions, we're a division of Complete Payroll Solutions. So I head up the HR outsourcing division. We help companies who may not have HR or who need senior level HR strategic advice. Let's talk about the next slide and how we go about managing remote workers. So before COVID, just to show you some interesting statistics. So about 3.6% of the US workers worked from home, and at least half of the time. So in April 2020, as we know, crazy time, 97% of US workers work from home at least one day a week, and 67% said they had not worked remotely on a regular basis prior to that time. Many of you and most people in office environments are now working remotely. It's in a lot of ways changed our entire business climate. So it's an interesting statistic, this quick change. And as Joe said, you know, with e-technology, we've all had to figure this out and move forward in time. So next slide, Joe. Thank you. So there are some upsides, definite upsides of remote workers. And then there's some mixed reviews. So in interviewing some CIOs, they say the increased employee productivity increased so much that they're going to keep it going through 2021. On the other hand, a Stanford professor was noted, he's got a 4-year-old, and if any of you have small children, he called working from home a productivity disaster. Hopefully that's not where you all are right now in managing your children and work. A business consultant noted increased eye strain and brain fog for employees who spend too much time staring at their screen. And employees on the whole feel pretty good about the shift, though, so you should know that. In a Lenovo study from July, nearly 2/3 of respondents said they felt more productive working from home. Increased independence and flexibility have helped them become more efficient. So as you can see, there are mixed reviews, but for a lot of people, the work-life balance has become a bit better. A lot of those managers who, you know, refuse to manage people unless they were right there in the office, you know who they are. If I don't see you, you're not working. You know, they've had to radically shift their mindset on this to more of a maybe millennial or Gen Z outlook on work-life balance and working remotely. So as you know, if you have been working remotely, if you have people working remotely, there are some obstacles. So a lot of people at the time had outdated technology and lacked in-person social time with colleagues, presented new challenges. So the outdated technology, people had to quickly scramble to get computers and they were out of stock. And then the computers that they got, maybe the cameras weren't working accurately or the volume wasn't working accurately. So how do you fix all that so quickly to continue working? You know, no social time, again, with colleagues. I think that that's pressing on all of us, and that's going to continue to press on all of us as we work through this year 21 in vaccines. So some people find it challenging to work via video calls. I know that if any of you have been on long video calls, like 3 hours, it's incredibly taxing for many reasons. The focus that you need to have and so on. So if you can have shorter video calls, a half an hour to an hour, you'll find that you're more productive. Before COVID, few people were using their webcams on their personal computers. I think all of you know that. You know, we saw many news reports that said cover those webcams up because people could be spying on you. And of course now they're part of our everyday life and we're using them all the time. So a lot of people were stuck with low resolution cameras at the beginning of the pandemic or were not aware of how to use them. I know personally that I was on one of the first Zoom calls and somebody showed me how to use some of the technology. One of our other VPs didn't know how to use it, so I was showing him. So it was sort of, I think all of us were teaching each other how to use this technology. So employees needed increased training to figure out how to turn their cameras on, even figure out where their camera was located, how about their volume. And I heard today that there has been some challenges with the presentations and the technology. So we're still challenged by this, but we're definitely getting better, that's for sure. And the technology that's coming out is going to make this better and better. So there are some hidden costs of remote work. It's not without costs. Since the quality of many of our computer displays was not up to par, a lot of employees had to purchase maybe external cameras, speakers, monitors, mice and keyboards to improve working from home. So there was the cost for that for your employers. As you know, new equipment is not cheap. In a Lenovo survey, respondents spend an average of $273 on new technology to improve their remote working. 70% of people surveyed purchased new technology, of which only 61% were fully reimbursed by their employers. And we're going to talk about reimbursement a little bit later on in the presentation. So it's not just about upgrades to technology. Employers are also looking to prevent remote work injuries. Interesting. I'm not sure if any of you thought of that, but now people working from home are out of the office, and when they're in the office, we obviously have worked hard to try to make sure that it's injury-free as possible. Well, now people are working from home, and we don't have that much control. In April, the American Chiropractic Association stated that 92% of chiropractors said patients were reporting more back, neck, and other muscle pains since working from home. I know I had a lot of people complaining about the ergonomics of their chair that they were sitting in, and they needed a new chair, or the height of their table at home wasn't helpful, and they were getting neck strains and so on. The Lenovo study found 71% of employees said they've experienced new or worse aches, difficulty sleeping, eye strain since working remotely. So it's definitely been a major shift for all of us. So if remote working is declared mandatory, expense reimbursement policies need to be updated. So if your employer has said it's mandatory work from home, we need to make sure that we are updating those expense reimbursement policies. The policy should state what the employee already has, what they need to have, and what is necessary for them to have. It should state how they're going to get it, what happens if they need more, and what an accommodation process is. Okay, so we need to have parameters around all of this. Consider utilities, cell phone, internet, supplies. It could be any of those. Some states, such as California, mandate expense reimbursement when employees work from home. So make sure that you do your research, pay attention to your state law wherever you're located. Most of you are in Rhode Island, and they don't have a drilled down expense reimbursement policy, but rest assured that your employees, if you're forcing them to work remotely, are going to be looking for some kind of a reimbursement for expenses they may have to make on their own. So 5G. Remote workers need consistently speedy internet connection. As you know, 5G is moving across the country. The towers are going up. Employees frequently overestimate their Wi-Fi capability, and they often need more than they think that they do. And we're seeing this, of course, with children working at home, learning, streaming through the same router at the same time each day. You may see people popping in and off of video, and that's why. They just don't have the capacity that they need to have, so you might have to get a booster or somehow increase that Wi-Fi. The advent of 5G is going to transform the future of smarter personal computing. So we have come a long way, but we're going a long way in regard to advancing the technology. Artificial intelligence is also going to be a major contributor, and is already actually, to automate a lot of routine responsibilities, which will free up time to work on more strategic priorities. So I know a lot of people are concerned about losing jobs with AI in the marketplace or in the workforce. It's just going to change jobs. So people are going to have to retool, retrain in order to work with AI moving forward in their jobs. CIOs will use predictive analytics to prevent failures before they happen. So analytics is a big field, up and coming field. We're going to need more people focused on analytics coming out of the AI community. Next slide. Hang on 1 second, we're just having a problem. Yep, there we go. Thank you, Joe. So flexibility is key here, really, really important. And I know that a lot of managers, some supervisors really struggle with this flexibility piece. The world has changed. We have to let go of those old age thought processes of people coming in and working 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever that looks like. That has completely changed. We have to become more flexible as managers and as leaders. The virtual interaction can never take the place of real human connection. As I mentioned, previously, I'm certainly missing my friends, my coworkers. I'm sure you are too. A lot of us are really suffering from that. So this virtual environment we're in is never going to replace human connection. As soon as we get through the vaccine and we get into a safer place, we are going to re-engage with each other and have those human touches. However, business can learn from companies where remote work has long been a part of their model. And I do believe that going forward in time, we will have more human connection, but this model is not going away. I'll just, give you an example of myself. I used to work in any state in the Northeast, any given day of the week. So I was traveling to Maine and New Hampshire, Cape and Islands, wherever I needed to be. And now I'm doing everything remotely. And so for me, that is not going to change. I'm going to continue to do something remotely. I have to be probably convinced that I really have to be someplace in person going forward. That being said, I will connect with my team. I will connect with, people that I need to in a personal level. So there's a company called BitLab, has employees from all over the world. So this is a global company. They drop in on company calls with no purpose other than to participate in water cooler talk. So I don't know if any of you have set these meetings up. I have a weekly team meeting. We sort of start with water cooler talk. I want people to just get off their chest what's on their mind, and then we get into some strategy and some really detailed HR legislation. But many of their teams have virtual coffee hours. They even have a Slack channel open for people to post comments or good news. I recently saw a flyer from Panera this week, actually, that you can now deliver like a lunch sandwich to somebody's home. So if you have a luncheon meeting, you can deliver to everybody's home and you can have sort of a team luncheon together on Zoom or Ring Central or whatever technology you use. So employers are starting to question how they will entice employees back to the office. I'm hearing a lot of chatter about culture, and the culture's broken and so on. So they want to try to entice people back to the office. I would use incredible caution right now. People, most people are not yet vaccinated, especially in office environments, right? The hospitals are. But so incredible caution. I think the note here is, we want to keep people as safe as we can and not put people in danger. Imagine if a whole team of your workers went down, what would happen to, your organization, your municipality? Would you be able to function and so on? So just be very cautious about that. There's not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach going back. More of a hybrid model, I'm guessing, is what's going to happen. So versatility will be key to the ability to work from anywhere, at any place, at any time. We've already seen that with our cell phones, our iPhones or whatever phone that you're using, has allowed us to work anywhere at any time, which is both good and bad. Be cautious with your non-exempt employees. Make sure they understand clearly the rules of the road. They still need to punch in and punch out. They need to be paid for all the hours that they work. So you want clear parameters around when they're going to work and when they're not going to work. Okay, Joe, next slide. All right, so there are different remote work styles, and this is not that much different from DISC. If you've gone through something like that, it's not a lot different from that. But we all have certain ways that we like to get things done. When we're in the office, it can be easy for us as leaders or managers to identify what somebody's style is, right? When working remotely, it's a lot more challenging. We're not really seeing people working. Even if we're on the meetings with them, we're not really seeing how they do it. So as managers, don't assume that you know what works best for everyone, because everyone's different. Be flexible in your approach to accommodate your direct reports. Help them thrive and deliver their best work. That's our job as a leader and as a manager. Our job is to motivate and allow our employees to thrive so that they can give us their best work. And if you don't know what will help them, simply ask them. Take a survey of your staff and ask them. Communication, effective communication, I would say, is more important now than ever before. The methods you use can provide you with clues on how people prefer to interact, on how you manage their time, their productivity. So communication is very, very important. If you feel like you're not a good communicator, there are plenty of courses, e-learnings available to help you improve that skill set. So here are remote work styles. Be in tune with both verbal and nonverbal actions. When we are together, it's very easy to pick up on those nonverbal behaviors. When we're doing this over Zoom, that's not as easy. I know I'm doing interviewing now. I don't have the ability to sort of watch somebody as a whole come into an office, sit down, are they rocking in their chair? You know, what is their nonverbal cue that they're telling me? So when they're on Zoom, we are all much more cued into the camera and what's going on than if we were in person. So in some ways, these meetings are like sitting in a room with someone with their arms folded. People are pretty stagnant. In an office, people are able to manage their energy on their own. People can put their heads down and work all day, while other people, as you know, look for conversation around the water cooler. They get a lot of reward by meeting with other people and just chatting a little bit through the workday. So consider conducting a workplace preference assessment. So there's a company called Social Styles that identifies 4 personality types, again, very much like this, which can give managers parameters on how they can communicate with their people and how they can engage with each other. So here's 4 work styles that are identified. So we have people that are drivers, and these are employees who like to keep things brief. So they want to get in, discuss the results, keep it to essential business, and get on with it. So if you have somebody that's a driver, you don't want to pull them into sort of extraneous conversations, get them off topic. They're going to get very frustrated with that. These are very detailed, analytical people, and they just want to keep it businesslike and go. Then you may have people that we call expressives, employees who like to talk and think out loud. So they're thinking while they're talking. They appreciate being on webcam or phone. They value conversations over a lot of pre-work and like to connect both personally and professionally. So you may find some people, expressive people, who are thinking while they're talking to you. Now, if you have somebody that's a driver and somebody that's an expressive, I know what you're going to think, and what I'm thinking is they may clash a little bit because the driver wants to move on and the expressive wants to just talk. So knowing what people's styles are should help you manage better. So amicables or amiables, employees who value relationship security and want to put their best foot forward with their manager. Okay, so they appreciate agendas in advance, having time to think before they speak. They value FaceTime on camera and want to have an unrushed conversation that includes both professional and personal connection. These are people that try to get along with each other and try to bridge relationships. And then we have our analytics. Employees who value preparedness and having time to think in advance, often preparing written to verbal communication. They may prefer not to be on webcam. So there's some people that don't want to be on the camera. You've seen that. You know, I've been in many meetings where half of the people turn their cameras off. You're not looking at me. And then other people who have it on the whole time. So these folks may want the webcam off. They appreciate agendas in advance, in addition to the opportunity to offer their opinion in writing after a conversation. So they want to follow up with an email, maybe summarizing what you already said to them on the phone or on a web call. So there are other opportunities for engagement. Some employees used a lot of interaction or travel before the pandemic. That is a much different workday now, and they may need more support. So someone like myself, I did a lot of traveling prior to the pandemic. I'm not traveling at all right now. You know, my husband was in sales. He covered the whole Eastern Seaboard. He's not traveling at all right now. So we need to understand how much interaction an employee actually needs. It helps leaders know how much connection they need to give them. So we're trying to gauge that. Leaders need to understand how to enable people to be successful in many different work environments. Some companies have offered volunteer activities to keep people connected. They may do raising funds to pay for some PPE or creating a virtual food drive for those poor people that need food today. And it's allowing employees to get a sense of fulfillment when they can get in the office finally. So consider some strategies like that for your people. It's just going to keep people more connected. Many of you might have done a holiday drive for some families or something similar, and I hope that you saw that sense of community come together with your employees. So if you can create these opportunities, your people are going to be more engaged in what you're doing. Feedback is very, very important, especially now that we are remote. So that once a week feedback, once every other week, whatever that looks like for you. Managers need to create persistent feedback and goals to help team members know how to perform and produce. So, some of you may still be using that sort of check the box performance review methodology. That sort of methodology has really been thrown out, and we're really doing these touch point meetings now with our staff. Constant communication, constant feedback. We're documenting every week, every other week, what went well, what did not go well with our employees. It's connecting them to you as a manager and providing more engagement for them. So check in with your staff. Make sure you're providing enough engagement. How's it going? Am I giving you enough? Do you need more? Do you need less? What's happening? Ask them to let you know. How well is it working for them? How else can you support them in this very difficult time? Ask yourself how well it's working for you as a manager. So we all need to do a little self-reflection right now and ask yourself as a manager or a leader, are you doing enough to support your own staff? Could you be doing more? Are you taking care of yourself? That's a really important piece here. We're under an immense amount of stress today. Are you taking care of your own well-being? Are there any adjustments you could try for either your staff, for yourself? Ask them. You don't have to come up with this by yourself. Ask them. Consider the frequency, length of the conversation, and the platform you're using, such as a phone, a webcam. Do you have an agenda or some other prep mechanism that you're using? To determine our must-haves for one-on-one check-ins. So what do you need to have when you're checking in on your employees one-on-one? Again, I would recommend this sort of, I call it a touch point meeting, a 5-minute, what's going well, what's not going well, understand where they're at, and then documenting that. Strive to customize at least some of the discussion to your employees' needs. So look at metrics if you have them. I'm not sure if all of your jobs have them, but for example, in sales, right? We look at metrics all the time with our sales teams. You could look for drop-offs, in-calls, emails, meetings. What's happening with those sales calls? Depending on the outcome, your employee may need more engagement from you. And please, at this time, we've seen a lot of people struggling through this time. Make sure that you are checking in with your people from a mental health perspective frequently. And if something is going on, if they need additional help, look towards your health plans, whether it's Blue Cross, Tufts, whatever that looks like. If you have an employee assistance provider, recommend that they talk to someone there. Keep in touch with your people. As we mentioned, going forward, a significant amount of employees will continue to work from home, at least in some capacity. So this is here to stay in some capacity, and leaders are going to have to adapt. So if you are a leader, you're going to have to get your arms around this, because this is the wave of the future. Consider how you'll make it work best for the employees in balancing what their emotional needs are with what your productivity needs are of your municipality or company. You need that balance there. The focus is on leadership, wellness, and balance that fuels productivity. So if you have people that you're just pushing for productivity, they may have children at home that they're trying to teach because the schools are closed, or balancing that at the same time. You may have people starting to hit a burnout level. We need to make sure that our employees are thinking of their wellness as well, and they're balancing that with productivity. So we're going to have to work one-on-one with them to make sure that everyone's moving in a positive direction. If you lean too far into focus, grind, and metrics, people will burn out, and they are burning out. So the EAP programs, I'm hearing from all the EAPs that I work with that they've had record-breaking reach outs. People are struggling, so make sure that we are thinking about our employees' wellness. It's about meeting them where they're at, right? And trying to engage them in more ways with your organization. That's really the goal of this whole thing. Experts are saying that productivity has ebbed and flowed over the last several months. Everyone has and is adjusting to the impact of remote work. So at first, in March, when people went remote, productivity was sky high. As this pandemic has gone on, and you may have seen it yourself in your own work, it's sort of ebbed and flowed. People are hitting burnout periods and then they're sort of getting back in the seat and moving forward. People are adjusting and we just need to let them adjust. I think people are more adjusted now. However, we just saw the impact in Washington. Now we have an external stressor on us. We have now other strains of the virus hitting us. So it just doesn't seem to be stopping. So the more we can be flexible and adjust, the better it's going to be for our staff. So as I was mentioning, initially we saw that strong uptick in productivity. For some people, a lot of people, were really worried about their jobs. And so they were trying to be as productive as they can. They were afraid they were going to get laid off. So they were doing as much as they could. For others, they were looking for something to distract themselves from this chaos that we're all facing, so they were trying to work as hard as they can. Today, certain employees in certain roles, I'm sure you've seen this where you are, have slid back noticeably or declined. So those are the folks that we need to catch right now. So pay attention to who those are. These are coachable moments for them. Try to set metrics to get them back on track. And hopefully you can get them back on track without putting in performance improvement plans and so on. So this could be happening due to fatigue, difficult school year with remote or blended models for parents and children, a general feeling of dejection, chaos. People are working through this. We're certainly not where we were back in March. I think most people have acclimated to what has been happening in the country, around the world, but we still struggle through this, and it's going to be a bit longer until we're out the other end. Keep in mind that not everyone's productivity is going to be the same. So as you know, COVID opened the floodgates for long overdue change to the 40-plus hour work week, and the end of strict productivity metrics is one of them. Continue to acknowledge changing schedules of employees and when possible offer flexibility to allow them to maintain productivity on their own time. So you may have someone that cannot work at 8 o'clock in the morning because they have to get their children set up for the school day with remote school. So they may need to start work at 9:30 and they may work later in the day, or they may pop in and out helping their children and work later into the night. The key is to make sure that they're meeting the goals and that the productivity is where you need it to be, giving flexibility along the way. So it's not reasonable to expect employees to remain heads down from 9 to 5, but it's likely they can meet their responsibilities within whatever schedule they have, right? And this was a push before the pandemic even hit. The millennial generation was saying, we want work-life balance. And so this has just put it on steroids to work-life balance. Productivity is not going to look the same for every person in every role. Again, we want to meet people where they're at. Some employees prefer to start working earlier, as we mentioned, sign off earlier. Others need to take frequent breaks to care for their family members. As long as employees are meeting the duties of their jobs, they should be encouraged to do so at their own pace. Many companies have loosened the reins on some of their traditional roles. So major tech firms have announced plans to allow employees to work remotely, maybe forever. They never have to come back to the office if they don't want to come back to the office. We are hearing that the younger generations of people are really striving to be together. Again, we want to wait a while until it's safe to do that, but we want to keep that in mind that some companies may work remotely forever. Half of all employees are going to expect to work this way going forward. I imagine that most are going to see some blended model. Consider ways to change things up by holding team meetings outside or during a walk. As you know, in Rhode Island, This is really hard to do right now. You know, it's been snowing for the past 3 days. We have a nor'easter probably coming. You know, it's going to be hard to hold a meeting outside right now. So, you know, I'm looking forward to the spring when it does warm up a little bit. Maybe we can put our chairs outside, you know, have a lunch, be socially distanced, and at least see each other. So communicate, communicate, communicate. One of the best practices for managing remote employees is communication. I think it's at an all-time high. So again, I urge you, if you feel like you need to improve that in some way, you know, we have e-learnings that we can send to you. There are many different courses that you can take to improve your communication skills. The most successful managers and staff are the ones who know how to communicate and to do it effectively. So goal setting. So we still want to have goals, right? We know certain times when employees are less effective. How about the day after the Super Bowl? Are people working? Well, we know they're not, right? 17 million employees call in sick, and businesses lose $4 billion because of the Super Bowl. Can you imagine? It's going to be interesting to see this year, with everybody being remote, if that changes a little bit as people can sort of change their work day and their work schedule, maybe sleep in a little later. So that's going to be interesting to see. Employees are most engaged before lunchtime. So if you have to have an important meeting or conversation, try to do that before the lunchtime. Dips in productivity are normal, but this year's aren't. And business goals will suffer as a result and have suffered as a result. And that is normal. You need to reevaluate goals to account for the environment your teams are working in. So if you did set goals, I don't know when you set them, maybe January of 2020, this was not even on the horizon, you know, January 2021, maybe those goals need to be tweaked now. Okay? Success has largely been measured by output. You know, everyone wants to know how much output you have. And if you have more output, you're more successful. That standard is just not feasible anymore. So we want to get rid of that traditional idea. We need to adapt to this future of work, rework the standards you measure employees by, make sure they reach personal milestones and measures, more human work like involvement in cross-functional committees, communication skills, how to prioritize, and so on. And if they're not reaching those milestones, that's when we want to have a coaching moment with them. Why aren't they reaching that milestone? What's getting in the way of that? And how can we help them through that? So we really need to act as a coach today and not as sort of a traditional boss, but our job is to coach our staff so that they perform at a higher level. Now that we're working remotely, it's important to account for all the skills that make an employee an asset to your team. Why did you hire them? Why are they an asset to the team? Consider all those important skills that those employees are bringing to you and your organization. So motivation is so important. As a manager, you are responsible for making sure that your team is running smoothly, goals are being set, employees are happy. All it comes down to your ability to intrinsically motivate your employees, which has fundamentally changed over the last 6 months, a year, etc. I would say if you have honest conversations respectfully to your staff, you're going to motivate people. This is not about perfection. This is about coaching and being honest with people and bringing people to a higher level. Now, we have all known, we've had major news events that have happened, right? We saw what happened in Washington. That really impacted a lot of people. You know, be real about that. How are you doing with that? How are you coping with that? How can I help support you? You know, start candid conversations and build genuine connections with them. Get on a team call if we have these national events, you know, perhaps, and just, you know, talk about it and then make sure your people are okay. Managers are encouraged to start conversations and, you know, share your own insecurities. That makes you a stronger leader if you're able to share your own insecurities about what's happening. Evaluate how your teams are recognized and find ways to recognize your top talent. Consider meeting with the senior leadership team to recognize an employee with somebody did something incredible, maybe give them an award, a day off, whatever that looks like. Think of this unique time as a challenge. It's a challenge to us and our team, and how are we going to rise to that occasion? I know for my team, it was a big challenge going remotely. It shifted our business environment, but we are working remotely very successfully. So this has been a positive impact, I think, on all of our team. It's working very well for us. Small things like revisiting goals, right? Reminding employees to take small vacations, and please remind your employees to take vacations, but you need to set that example. I know my staff, nobody took vacation, right? Nobody in 2020. People were burnt out. I finally said to everyone individually, you need to take time off. I want you to take vacation time, take downtime. I tried to do the same when I could. I certainly didn't use all of my time off. Not that that matters, but there's no place to go. I get that. But even having a day where you can just unplug, away from the computer is going to be a major thing for all of us. Set the tone for your team, convince them that their work is making a difference to your organization. So, new focuses. We're seeing companies take a completely new focus. Let's talk about Facebook. So they've taken a radical step. They scrapped the first half of performance evaluations and gave everyone the same bonus rating. Now, I'm not suggesting you do that, but this is like when we look to big HR changes, we often look to big companies and leaders in the US and what they're doing. So they scrapped the performance reviews, gave everyone the same bonus rating because they knew everyone was under incredible stress. Then they focused their intention on making sure managers and direct reports had frequent discussions about how they were performing and how they're feeling. It helped alleviate pressure of having to perform at extraordinary levels during an abnormal time and allow them to focus on what mattered most, their people. And again, I'll bring this back to my team. We had to perform at an absolute extraordinary level during this time, I would say March through July. I certainly in my career have never experienced something like that. We were helping hundreds and hundreds of employers with layoffs, furloughs, terminations, at the same time trying to understand the changes in legislation coming out from Washington and communicating that out to people, how to keep people safe. We've certainly never experienced something like that. So I did give a nice reward to my people for going over and above at that time. Benefits of flexibility are twofold. Managers have the leeway to manage their work and personal lives without getting burned out. So if you're feeling burned out, I would say you need to refocus on yourself, look at your work-life balance. What are you doing for yourself in balance with your work? You have to re-engage. The business can focus on producing quality work and coming out ahead as long as we all maintain this work-life balance and take care of ourselves. Leaders should prioritize so that teams can plan on spending their time and energy on the most important tasks. So let go of the least important tasks. Let's focus on what we all have to really get done. Some parts of working remotely have become routine, like maybe working from your living room table instead of a desk or a chair surrounded by your peers. Other things still feel very foreign to us. Annual reviews are still happening. Again, consider that touch point review methodology. I'm happy to talk to you offline about that if you are still doing this sort of annual check the box review on why that doesn't make a lot of sense today. Performance bonuses are returning. I am seeing that. And I have seen key predictive indicators here and companies following those. Work in 20 and 21 is just going to be different. It just is. And leadership approaches need to take a different leadership style to meet that change and that challenge. Employee well-being, and we've talked about this a lot today. I have seen just a lot of crisis out there in the community, and so that's why I'm focusing on this. Consider what your team is facing with a crisis that they've all worked through, whether they've had COVID, they know someone who's had COVID, schools closing, and so on. It's a very stressful time. As you know, this is nothing new. The threat of COVID remains very high, not just with the traditional COVID, but now these mutations that are coming out. People are very concerned about this, obviously. Working parents have been forced to take on children's duties and full-time teaching responsibilities even now school's back in session and they're trying to manage their job on top of that. I honestly don't know how people with little children are trying to take care of their little children if daycare is closed, school's in and out, and they're trying to run their job at the same time. So this toll is more taxing than ever on our parents. As employers, we need to try to support them and work with them as best we can. So this work-life balance has continued to bleed into each other, and this is going to continue to happen. So bringing your whole self to work today may be very challenging for some of you, especially those struggling with sick family members, people in school, and so on. We need to give people the time they need to take care of themselves and their families. The emotional toll of this climate should not be understated, and we should understand that. So lead with empathy. Lead with empathy. Invest in your people. Someone was telling me yesterday that their boss, their manager, had this discussion in the morning about how they needed empathy. Use empathy with the customers because of the stress they're facing. And then during the day, one of the staff members started becoming sick. Yeah, had a fever, 99.6 after taking 3 Tylenol. She was achy and had a headache. She said to the boss, "I think I need to leave. I don't feel well." And he said to her, "I think you can stick it out a little longer." That is not the message a leader needs to be sending. When we're talking about empathy, first of all, we should not have sick people in our work environment. We all have to be protective of our teams right now, but we need to have empathy towards our people. So 9 predictions about work in 2021, and then we'll wrap up and take some questions from you. So company culture. I am hearing this from many CEOs, many organizations I'm working with. People are concerned about their company culture. They had a great culture before COVID, and now they don't know what's going to happen. So company culture is facing a crisis. It is. It is. Employees are craving collaboration with each other and social connectiveness. Video calls may not be cutting it anymore. So how are we going to continue to socially connect and keep our culture in place? I know that our CEO throughout this whole time has sent these incredible emails to the whole team, which has really bonded everyone together. That has kept our company culture intact and together. But think about how you're going to do that. Now, active engagement rather than people just being engaged. That's been a challenge even before COVID, right? I mean, studies showed, like so many people that were working, were not engaged in what they do. They're all looking for jobs. Very few people were actively engaged. We need to recruit and maintain those people that are actively engaged in what we're doing. We need new forms of collaboration to evolve without the fatigue of video calls. Again, if you're going to do video calls, keep it to an hour or less. Don't go to those, or don't plan those 3-hour video calls. People are just fatigued after those. So recreate opportunities for chance meetings. So how are you going to do that? You know, it used to be people used to stop in the hall and chat with each other. We used to sort of talk to younger employees and bring them along. How are we going to do that? Think of some innovative ways where we can do that now, where we can't physically be together. So especially critical for women and minorities. We certainly don't want people to get lost in this environment. We want to make sure all of our staff is engaged. These theories of work-life balance has imploded, and the line between work and home, it's going to continue to blur. I think this is here for the future. People that will succeed practice self-care. So they are having some hobbies, manage your time well. Think about, I know a lot of you have bought Peloton bikes and are biking around, you know. Think about something that you can do for yourself that has a positive self-care during this time. So the second one is, if you haven't done this already, build a remote work strategy. Learn how to best serve employees and your organization by onboarding employees remotely. So if you don't have payroll technology to remotely onboard people, you need to look into that. Our systems do that. I know that there's other payroll technology systems out there that also do that. It's as simple as pushing a button and all of the new hire paperwork goes to them, they complete the work, and it comes back to you. So you can securely connect employees to resources regardless of their location and how to fully support permanent and remote workers. The other thing that I've seen happen is employers now are recruiting people from across the country because they no longer physically have to be near each other. So they feel like it's opened up a whole pool of candidates that they would not have considered prior to this. So we're seeing companies evaluate positions, enable talent sourcing focused on finding the right skills, as I said, regardless of those locations. So it's skills, skills, skills. It's going to reduce the total cost of sourcing. We may not have to fly someone into our area, put them up in hotels, provide lunches or dinners, and so on. So we're seeing a lot of cost savings there. As I mentioned, look for talent outside. It's going to be a huge advantage to a lot of organizations. In 21, we'll see smaller, more flexible, safer hubs designed to facilitate collaboration, creativity, and problem solving. And that's going to be happening by advanced technology that we're going to be seeing coming into the work environment. So update your retention strategies. Think about retention. I understand right now that it's a buyer's market. There's a lot of people that are unemployed or underemployed, but you don't want to lose your good people. Some people have options about where and how to work. We need to reevaluate our operations, our culture, and the future of our organization. So if you have not thought about this, you need to think about this now. What is the future of the organization? And who are the people that you're going to need to run your town, your municipality? We'll see organizations investing in technology and keeping people connected and working, providing employee perks like stipends, unlimited PTO. If you're thinking about that, call me before you do it, or opportunities to work from home or from rented homes. I've been on calls with several people who've been, in the Bahamas and they're calling me, or in Florida, and they've rented homes there and they're calling in. So we're going to have to look at experiences, culture, empowerment as a driver to engagement, and that is the key to improving performance and employee satisfaction. This war for talent, so our ability to recruit each other, is going to continue. So we need to be very careful and retain our high-level people. You want to look at your total reward packages that support your employees. What are you offering to people in regard to insurances and packages that are going to support them? Does it make sense now? Do you need to retool that? So this goes back again to that virtual onboarding piece. So focus on modernizing the onboarding process. Focus on modernizing in general. And I know that towns are sometimes strapped with cash, but think about modernizing your processes. It is going to save time and it's going to save money. We all need to embrace technology that allows employees to be onboarded remotely. I would strongly recommend that you have a good HRIS system where employees are entering their own information. So if I change my address, they're not coming to you, they're going into the technology and they're changing it themselves. Okay, so we want to push a lot of this stuff to the employees now. We want to gauge their satisfaction, productivity, and career progression. We're going to be seeing improved tools and analytics, and we're going to be following this. Consider starting interviews or team meetings with fun questions such as, what's your favorite comfort food, or what's your worst travel story? Something that you want to break the ice and promote a connection with them. I know I'm doing a lot of interviewing right now, and I actually like the remote interviewing. I think that people are somehow a little bit more comfortable and more free to talk about what their background is, their experience, and so on. You also want to look at technologies such as DocuSign or ZohoSign, any of those kind of connections that connect employees or connect employees with mentors within the organization to help new employees. So asynchronous communication. So we want to support this. And what this means is pre-recorded. So this asynchronous means we're not together in time as we are now. So right now we're all together on this presentation. So asynchronous, we're not together. These are pre-recorded. It could be using a technology called Vidyard. I don't know if anybody has used those, but you can record your own meeting and send it out to people. We're seeing this with our e-learning LMS platform. So we're sending them out e-learnings. They're taking it in their own time, testing, and getting a certificate. Okay. So this has helped keeping remote workers productive and happier. than those who work in a traditional office environment. You know, we had to stop walking by someone's desk and ask questions to start impromptu conversations. We're concerned about the lack of that and the innovation that comes as a result of that. All right? Establish guidelines for communication, frequency, and tone, and provide the right support. So instead of asynchronous, synchronous video, you know, marks the human connection of video with the flexibility of setting our own schedule. So what we're doing right now, we're in real time, we're on the same video together. So this is another method of communication. So make the employee experience a priority. Very, very important. Look at automated tasks, simplify work, and fuel collaboration. Okay, we want to look at what is your experience. You may want to survey your staff and see what their experience is. We want to make sure that we're linking virtual agents to pods and key locations, balancing labor, engaging in greater diversity, equity, and inclusive opportunity. Make sure that you are taking a look at that today. DEI initiatives are very, very important. We want to make sure that we're not leaving people behind and that whatever resources you're giving to your staff, you're giving it in an equitable manner. So make HR a strategic partner. HR should be a strategic partner at your organization. This is not the HR of the 1950s where people just shuffled papers. We are a strategic partner. This is a very calculated and carefully worked through area now, as you know, with the legal environment that we are in. So we need to be a strategic partner for our organizations, our towns. We want to attract and retain talented people. That's going to become more and more important. And our HR team needs to shift from operational center, again, to a strategic advantage. So some people ask me, Karyn, why do HR people get laid off during recession? This is why. Because they're looked at as an operational center, lack of value, overhead and cost to a company, instead of a strategic partner trying to help that organization move forward in time. So in 2021, a human-centric HR approach will be more closely linked to business outcomes, and leaders need to invest in programs, benefits, and opportunities that support new employment and current employees. So we need to continue to focus on strategy for our organizations. And finally, watch technology expand in the office. I think this is going to be really fun to watch as we see new technologies coming in. Predicted that there's going to be a massive investment. I'm already seeing it in productivity fundamentals. It's already happening. It's in a response to mixed collaboration tools that have resulted in this jumble of technology that we're currently using. Organizations will continue to trend to advanced technology in the office, again, A1 technologies and so on, as companies consider tools that employees choose for their own use to do their jobs. The desire is going to be for more premium products that focus on an increase in technology, will be a powerful force in changing the nature of software and the nature of work in the next 10 years. Again, this is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's going to be a big change. So our sponsor today, Joe at CSC Global, is a great example of this. They've created technology to e-record land records in every county and city offices. They're currently working with over 2,000 counties, 48 states. The pandemic has shown that the ability to e-record documents from remote locations or home has never been more critical. So I encourage you to reach out to Joe regarding CSC and his services that he's able to offer all of you now in Rhode Island. So here's my contact information. Karyn Rhodes, I'm the VP Director of Complete HR Solutions, which is a division of Complete Payroll Solutions, and my email address. I just wanted to let you know that we are holding an essential HR training class. We have training classes, HR training classes that are going on quarterly. I have a total of 12 classes that repeat every quarter. So we have an essential HR training class. Jennifer wanted me to announce to you that it's coming April 14th and 15th. And then if you go to the events page at Complete Payroll Solutions, which is under Company and Events, you'll see all of our events coming up in the future. So now I'd like to just open it up to any questions you may have. You can put your questions right in the Q&A. Joe, I don't know if any questions came in during the presentation. I'll give people a minute. Yep.
I was just going to say I couldn't see because of the view that I had, but now I'm back and looking at the app.
All right, let's see. Okay, so Megan says, I'll be interested in these learnings, please. So go ahead and send me an email, Megan, and I will definitely get you on board with what we have to offer, and you can decide what you want to do. We'll wait for a few more questions, but if you don't have any, I'll just touch a little bit on the vaccine, because this is now becoming a big issue. Can you mandate or not mandate people getting a vaccine for COVID? So you can, in fact, mandate it. The EEOC came out and said you can mandate it. However, if you are not a healthcare facility, a hospital, a doctor's office, a nursing home, I would strongly advise against mandating people getting the vaccine. What I would do is recommend that you strongly recommend people getting the vaccine. Obviously, the more people who are vaccinated, the safer we're all going to be. You will run into some problems if you mandate the vaccine. You may have people that come to you and say they have a medical issue. Now you're getting into ADA, and can you accommodate them? Can you not accommodate them? We're going to have to walk through that very carefully. So you want to definitely consider them. There's religious issues that go on that people don't want to get the vaccine. How are they going to get it? I know the rollout is happening differently in different states. From what I'm hearing, the hospitals are all vaccinated, the nursing homes are vaccinated. They're now going to the next level, which is 75 and older, people with a lot of underlying medical conditions. I know it's going to be difficult to sign up for those vaccines, but they will eventually be coming. I know that the administration is working on it. So just consider what your stance is going to be in regard to people getting the vaccines. If you are mandating it, you will have to pay people to get the vaccine. So I don't know if you're thinking about bringing someone on site to do it, or you're sending people to have it done, but that is definitely another consideration. So I don't see any other questions coming in.
I do not either.
Okay. So if we don't have any other questions coming in, I guess we're going to end the presentation and release you early so that you can go to visit your sponsor's booth and see what they have to offer. I know that there's great raffles going on today.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Thanks so much for attending. Have a great day.